احنا جاهزين، قلنا جاهزين. اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. استغفر الله. بسم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. The Sheikh is starting by making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. So say Ameen. 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 وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. We go back to the righteous people, the lifestyle of the we have talked before about several of the followers of the companions of the Prophet. One of them was Abu Hanifa al-Nu'man. May Allah have peace and blessing on him. Today we're going to talk about a different character, and his story. It sounds like something not from it's like a fiction more than it's true. And this is the character of those great people that Allah Azza wa Jal chose on this earth. So if the fiction comes from the imaginations, but this person from the righteousness and the blessing of Allah Azza wa Jal that He gave him, and the incident of this character and his tabi'i, it goes back to the middle of the 1st century, and it's on year 51 or after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, when Al-Rabi' ibn Ziyad, the companions, may Allah be pleased with him, and all the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and this companion of the Prophet ﷺ, he used to have his servant Farrukh, and it's a very well-known name in the Indian subcontinent. One of the most famous historians, Umar Farrukh, and this companion, he used to fight in the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And as you know, when Allah opened the Persian countries, so after the Muslims went all over the Arabian subcontinent or peninsula, then they went to Iraq and then Persia, as it is known nowadays as Iran, and then they went to the north of Afghanistan and all those countries all the way to China, Indonesia, until they get to the rivers of Sihon, Marsaria and Karsaria. And this is what separates Central Asia from the rest. This is Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and so on. And the Caucasian states of the southern Russian states, all the way to China. The strange in here, as you know, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they went east and west in the globe and seeking the jihad and to spread the word of Allah. What's important in that countries at that particular time, and this is what's amazing and bring the amazingness, that these are cold countries, cold states. So how the people of the desert who are used to the extreme heat, who've never seen the snow in their lives, to go all these years in sub-zero areas to fight in the sake of Allah and to be able to conquer all these land. We talk about geography. It's very important part in victory in any war. So those who have no experience in the snow environment, it's very hard for them to conquer those areas. But this to show you the sincerity of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and spreading peace and tranquility and justice, and to spread the word of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we are here not to just make you listen to the stories. We want you to understand and learn from these stories and try to implement them in your own lives. Because the stories for the companions, it is so we could learn. And Allah made it very easy on the soul to take. So a story with no essence, it has no meaning. But anyway, what we wanted to show in here, that the Muslims, they passed the river of Sihun, which separates China and Russia, in 51 after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. But the historians who knows this very well, we don't have anybody from China so we can ask him, but the individuals, they reach China at 25 after the Hijrah. We're talking about China and beyond. We're not talking about Afghanistan, we're talking about beyond. And that's and the river of Sihun, that was the separation between the Central Asia and Russia and China. But at the time of Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, in the first 25 years, they went all the way to China. It was not a conquer, it was just individuals. It just makes you see the sincerity, the energy, the companions, and how serious they took this religion. Anyway, we're talking back about Farooq. After Allah Azza wa Jal opened the victory, he went back to the Medina of the Prophet ﷺ to take some break from the war. And he was a young man in his middle age, about 30s, in the 30s. So he wanted to get married and to buy a house. And Allah gave him a lot of money from the conquering of the other countries. And he had almost 30,000 dinar, which at that time, in the millions. It was a very big number. The 1 dinar is like 4 to 5 thousand dollar. So we're talking about $3-4 million. So we're talking about the Sheikh is saying very close to $10 million. So you buy a house and a car and more. But anyway, the important thing in here, he wanted to get married, and he got married to a woman. Her name is Suhaila. And Allah brought tranquility and harmony between them. Then he missed the jihad in the sake of Allah, and heard that the armies are still moving from one city to another. So he took permission from his wife to go and fight in the sake of Allah. And here we need to stop for a second so we could compare, because there is an example in the stories that we are hearing. He is not from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He is one of those the followers of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So he still have that energy from them, from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and those who followed. And we all of you know that Hanzala, may Allah be pleased with him, when he was in his day of his marriage, when he heard the call for the jihad, he left in his first day, and the angels gave him because he smelled the Jannah and he didn't want to hesitate to enter Jannah, so he rushed to jihad and he died. And the angels, Allah sent the angels to wash his body. So you could see how the companions were listening to the Prophet ﷺ. They did not hesitate a second for something he called them amount. And here, this Farouk, he was newlywed, so he asked permission from his wife. No, nothing wrong. She said, and who are you going to leave this infant in my belly, in my womb? If it is only me, there is something she could take. But now it's her and her her son that did not come out yet. And then they both don't know whether he will come back from the war or not. He didn't leave his wife behind, but there is a child that is expected. And he's the one who came into Al-Medina to establish his life. But look, Allah said, oh, who you believe, why if you are told to go in the sake of Allah, you became heavy to the earth? The wife asks you, the son asks you, and the money is asking you to stay, and all the luxury from work, from everything, and your car, and even the shoes will hold you back, and laziness, of course, and the sins. So he came back from wars, and he got married, and he just stepped, and he wanted to see a son. But when he heard there is still jihad, that love to fight in the sake of Allah became a prior over his love to his son, or to his wife, or to the money. Allah said in the Quran, and those who believe are more beloved to Allah. So whenever you have two loves at the same time, who should supersede? It is the love of Allah and the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is the standard that we all have to look in our faith. Whenever we want to see what is the level of our faith, look where we love. Do we love Allah and His Messenger more than anything else? Or it's just a word that we say, but we love everything in this life? So he told her, after she asked, he told him, well, who are you going to leave me and the son to us? He said the same thing Abraham told Hajar, I left you to Allah and His Messenger. And then he left and joined the army, and he started fighting the sake of Allah. How many years? He came back after 27 years. 27 years, and he is fighting the sake of Allah. When you read in the book of fiqh, that some of the companions, or those who followed, who used to travel, and some of them, they shortened the prayers 10 years. What does that mean? He did not settle anywhere. He did not stay in any place to settle. Then he is traveling from one city to another. And the rule of traveling, if you're certainly gonna stay more than 3 at Shafi'i or 2 weeks at Hanafi, if you're certain of that, then you are a resident in that area, and you cannot shorten the prayer. But these did not know, because that state or city could be open and sometimes take years. Like Egypt took 5 years. So this Farouk did not come back after 27 years. When he came back, as you know, from the habit of the Prophet ﷺ, when he comes back to his city, he starts with the masjid. So he went to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ and to the garden of the Prophet ﷺ, and he prayed there, and then he prayed Fajr. Then he sat down, and he was still wearing his army clothes, and people are used to see that kind of clothes. So he prayed, and he found something he did not see when he left. He found the masjid is full of students who are studying. And so a young man that people are surrounding him. So they told him, who's this young boy who's teaching these people? He said, you don't know who is this teaching? This is the one he is the one who's teaching Imam Malik and Imam Al-Awza'i and Abu Hanifa and Yahya Al-Ansari and Sa'id ibn Yahya Al-Ansari. And didn't know this man? He said, I'm new to this town. So after he prayed, so he went to visit his house. And of course, 27 years, a lot of houses are added, things are changed. So he kept looking for his house until he found it. And he knew it. So he found his the door is open. So he get anxious. So he opened the door. Then he saw that teacher in that he held him. He said, "Who are you who have no right to enter this house without permission?" And that brought chaos, and all the neighbors came in. And Suhaila, she came out of her room. She told him, "This is your father. Ya Rabi'a, oh Rabi'a." After 27 years. This is what he left as an infant in his mother's house. She raised him. She did the best job. And he is a tabi' who's known Rabi'a al-Rai. May Allah be pleased with him. He's the one who taught Imam Malik and Abu Hanifa and As-Sab'i and others the religion of Allah. So this Farruj, if he stayed then and if he raised his son, he probably would not have him as a righteous person. Allah said, "Fear him and Allah teach you." All of you have kids. May Allah preserve them and protect them. We watch our kids day and night, 24/7, and maybe Allah will preserve him. I might not. And you see a lot of scholars and the educator whose kids are very astray. This is from the test of Allah. And from the test that Allah gives to the righteous people, the scholars, is to test them in their kids. Anyway, Rabi'a, who received this knowledge, and before he even reached 30, and he became the most knowledgeable person in Al-Madinah. The most knowledgeable people about the Sunnah of the Rasul is not even 27 years old. So when his mother gave birth to him, and her husband left a lot of money, what do you do nowadays? You put this college fund and leave it for the child, but no, she spent it to teach him, and teach him what? The knowledge of the religion. Every time he learn a book, she gives money, a lot of money, to his teacher so he could teach him more. So he memorized the Quran and whatever is available from the Sunnah of the Prophet. And he was among who learned from Anas ibn Malik, the servant of the Prophet. This is an honor that does not happen to everybody. And he stayed with a lot of the followers of the companions of the Prophet. So when he reached his epic in learning, he's told the teacher told his mother that he reached more than what he need to know in the memorization of the Sunnah of the Rasul after memorizing the Quran. So they told him, why didn't you find him something to work, something where he could learn? She said no. She said he is good in learning. She was a woman. Every time an army comes back or any group of soldiers come back, because they used to go back and forth, she asked about her husband. They used to tell, oh, he moved from this town, until she could not find any news about him. So she gave up that he will come back, and she thought Allah has given him the honor of martyrdom, where he's become a shaheed. And she thought that she is a widow, and she has an orphan. So she wanted to spend that money on educating him. So when he became strong, he was like his mother. What he inherited, what his father gave him, he used to spend on every needy person. He was one of the most generous person. So when Farouk came back, and he came back after 27 years, we said the first time he brought back 30,000 dinar. How much do you think he brought back with the money? 4,000 dinars. So you can see that he is not about the money. If he gets, then alhamdulillah. Otherwise, alhamdulillah, they seek the word of Allah. So when he came back with the 4,000, she said, where's the money so I can give you this? She said, all the money I spent it on your son. Are you satisfied? He said yes. He loved that investment in his son's education. The real investment, my brother and sister, is not in the real estate, not in a business. It's the one that you could invest in the human being, in the brain of someone, in his effort, in his work. So my advice to you, don't spend the money on something that's going to vanish. And money you spend in a book to teach a kid or to enhance his talent is better than anything you can spend on him that's going to vanish. And now we're Muslims, we invest only in the masjid, in the walls of the masjid, instead of the investing in the human being that enter the masjid. We invest in the building of the masjid, but not in the teacher of the masjid. In the iftar, and we don't do in the lecture. I'm talking about my masjid, not you, Muslim. We don't have iftar, not even halaqah. No food in our masjid. But we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to give you the reward for all the efforts you do in this masjid. This is a great gathering, alhamdulillah. So this is the people are only they are thinking opposite to the way that people used to think at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and those who followed. They invest in building the human character. By Allah, look, imagine a person who taught Al-Imam Malik and Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, and Imam Ahmad and Imam Shafi'i. They learned from the others. So all of them, they came back to Rabi' al-Rai. So everything that they learn, doesn't matter what kind of school of thought you take, in the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, this Rabi'a, he has a reward. Why? Because he's like that tree, and you have branches that comes out, and you plant like a branch and become another tree, and so on and so forth. But the origin is still there in the tree of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is a lecture. So all the school of thought come back to Arabiya, and goes back to Anas ibn Malik, the servant of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the root of all the school of thoughts, the education, the knowledge of Islam. If the son of Adam died, all his deeds are cut except three. One of it is a beneficial knowledge. and you don't know, you must say a word that people are benefit from it, and this person, he benefits someone else, and it grows, and it get widespread. Like right now, we're talking about the life of this follower of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and billions of people. He had the reward of billions of people who followed his school of thought. Who could have imagined? Does he know that this school of thought is going to come out and billions of people going to follow them? No. So again, invest in the knowledge. And our scholars and those who were before them, they used to invest on the students or education over the needy people. They used to spend the money on the education and on the people who want to learn more than they think it is more rewarding than the money to the needy, because there's more reward comes back to the person. Why? Because the knowledgeable person, he could resurrect a nation. But the needy person, you give him more food, and tomorrow he was the same thing. But the student, nothing will stop him from education except need to eat or need to get sustenance. Al-Imam al-Nawawi, may Allah be pleased with him, what did he do? He wrote the book of Riyadh. The hadith is there, but Allah put the blessing in him, and the acceptance was done for him in the earth. Allah give this blessing to whomever He wishes. When Allah put the acceptance, then it is accepted from him. Ibn Kathir also, when he looked at the explanations, and we know he is not the best of explanation of the Quran, but Allah has put the acceptance on earth. Every person, you tell him about these explanation of the Quran, they tell you the explanation of Ibn Kathir, and you could feel Allah has accepted to his work. So you don't know what kind of investment you do to the education of a student, and you don't know Allah, who is very kind, He does what people are used. And Allah do things uncommon to people. Allah will maybe reward you and you're not even aware, so you will not be deceived by it. But the reward could be from the greatest that people could think. Like who knows about Farooq? No one knew his name. I used to think that our brothers from the subcontinent, why they use that name, because it's widespread in there, and they said this is the father of Rabi'at al-Ra'i. So most of the people don't even know. We know Abu Bakr and Umar and Ali and Uthman, but that's it. None of us know Farooq. And it is the reward, all the rewards comes to Farooq because of his sincerity to Allah Azza wa Jal. So when you leave something to Allah, Allah compensate you with something better in your life and in the hereafter. When he left his wife and was in her womb to Allah and His Messenger, just like Ibrahim did, Allah compensate him with a lot of blessing. How many Rabi'at al-Ra'i there is? One. Because of the sincerity of his father. Subhanallah, the one who gives everything he wishes. So what I want you to know, to continue about the life of Rabi'a, that his name is Abu Sulaiman, Rabi'a ibn Farrukh. He's well known for Rabi'at al-Ra'i. And there is a reason in fiqh. As we have said, Ibn al-Majishun said, I haven't seen anyone more knowledgeable or memorizer of the Sunnah than Rabi'at al-Ra'i. He is more knowledgeable with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and he is a memorizer of the Book of Allah and the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah gave him the to understand how to implement this knowledge, and this is where the scholars comes in from, those knowledgeable, which is the ra'i, the opinion. So there is no calamity that could happen or nothing new that could happen, and Rabi'a, he has an opinion that is correct. So he's called Rabi'a al-Ra'i, the opinioned Rabi'a. And you don't see a book of you don't see any book about Rabi'a, you find the word Rabi'at al-Ra'i. And Umar, may I be pleased with him, he said, he was asked about the people of opinion. They said a lot of people go back to the opinion, so what do you think of that? He said, these are the people. They could not memorize the hadith. They get lazy memorizing the hadith of Salah, so they go back to the opinion, to his opinions, from his own soul. But if there is a statement of the Prophet, there is no more opinion. And this is a lesson for all of us, because a lot of people talk, and the khatib, they talk, and you find, unfortunately, the lectures and the khutbah is full of and he talk about his mother and father because they could not memorize the hadith. When they lack the stories of the righteous and the Prophet ﷺ and his hadith, they start talking about opinion. And they start talking about himself and the righteous people from his family. And a lot of people and you see, as if the Islamic history is empty from the knowledge on something we could use. So the knowledge is, they're too lazy for the knowledge, so go back to their own opinions instead of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's how people follow their own desires. And this is what you see nowadays. And the Sheikh is saying poetry that people are good as long they are good if they take their knowledge from their high scholars, because if they take it from them minor students, then they are all destroyed. So it has to be from the people who are knowledgeable. So Rabi'a, Allah gave him the Sunnah, the knowledge of the Sunnah, and his own opinion, that the success in his opinion. He is not among those who did not memorize the hadith. He memorized all the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But he is the one who knows how to use the hadith, and how to implement it depends on the changes of the situation of the Muslims. So Allah gave him the hadith and the opinion. So he was very known to all from all school of thoughts. He was like a unique scholar because of his knowledge and the way he used that knowledge and to implement it. صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد بن أمي. Continue inshallah Monday.